All right, welcome to today's edition of the 24th Floor. We have a ton of college football to talk about. We got two undefeated Mid-South teams, two Mid-South teams in the top 25, but those aren't exactly the same two teams. Confused yet? Good thing Rich is here to explain in the big idea. Rich.
The Memphis Tigers are 5-0 for the first time since 2019. But here's the catch. They're still unranked. Despite piling up wins and explosive plays, national voters are keeping them on the outside looking in. Roll that big idea stinger. The Tigers sit just outside the coaches' poll top 25. They earned 88 votes, the 26th most in the nation, just behind Utah, who grabbed the final spot with 104 points. Memphis also ranked 29th in the AP poll, while South Florida came in at 26. No non-power conference team made the top 25 this week, but the Tigers were the highest voted in the coaches' poll and second highest in the AP. Their case for respect grew last Saturday with a 55-36 win at Florida Atlantic. Brendan Lewis threw for nearly 200 yards and 4 total touchdowns, including a 73-yard strike to Cortez Branham Jr. Greg DeRosier added a 90-yard scoring run as Memphis exploded for 31 points in the fourth quarter. The Tigers are 5-0 under Ryan Silverfield and host Tulsa this Saturday in their first home conference game of the year.
I just love how hard this team plays, how hard this team works, and in every phase, every position on the team. Everybody wants to win, and I just love how when adversity strikes, no one points fingers, no one gets scared, no one gets rattled. From top down, the coaches aren't tripping, no players are fighting with each other. We all just know that we can get through this together because what we've done since January. So that's the biggest thing, is just how we battle through adversity and just find ways to come out on top.
All right, now to talk about the Memphis Tigers, let's bring in the man who knows the Tigers like I know tacos, and I know tacos really, really, really well. Talk about the inside man for the Daily Memphian. You don't know nothing about them tacos.
Oh, just don't get me started, Ruben, but let's keep it on point. He's a frequent friend of the program, FB2, Mr. Frank Bonner II. Welcome to the program.
Just the one clap.
I appreciate y'all having me on, as always. 5-0 start, it's a lot to talk about.
Let's get right to it then. You mentioned there's a lot to talk about. 5-0, undefeated, still not ranked, but I personally don't think a win over Florida Atlantic is enough to get you ranked. Frank, what's your take on what Memphis has to do to get in that top 25?
I mean, you just got to keep winning, right? When you look at where they started at the beginning of the season in terms of where they were outside of the top 25, they do have the marquee win over Arkansas, but Arkansas is looking like a program that, it's not all that great. And so you just keep stacking wins, and eventually they'll crack into the top 25. After beating Tulsa, the other part of it is you have to play a little bit of a puzzle game. There has to be enough top 25 teams that lose to be able to boost you in. And so there's some jigsaw puzzling going on with that.
Frank, let's look at that FAU game. That fourth quarter was electric. 31 points in just under 10 minutes. What does that kind of say about the finish of this team?
Dialing up a deep shot, and it's caught. Big play.
To continue to move the ball offensively, right? They don't throw at as high of a level as they've done in previous years, but that run game continues to go. And so when you have a lead like that, what you want to do is continue to drain the clock by running the ball. And when you're able to run the ball as effectively as they are able to do, you're still going to score points, even though you're trying to drain the clock at the same time.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that FAU game, because we kind of see it a little different. Like, you're talking about the fourth quarter explosion and a ton of points in 10 minutes. And I'm kind of looking at it like the game was probably a lot closer than it should have been for most of the game. So, Frank, talk a little bit about what you feel like you need to see from Memphis, because in those games that you're supposed to win, you kind of need to be dominant if you're trying to move up to that top 25.
Yeah, I mean, FAU, to their credit, they played well offensively, especially in that first half, to keep things interesting. And so, yeah, you would like to see Memphis be able to put their foot on the gas, maybe closer to the third quarter than they did in the fourth quarter, because the game was a 5-point game and about 10-20 left in the final quarter. So you would want to see that happen a little bit faster. But, at this point, as we're talking about I think it's less about them being ranked and more just about if they're able to win the conference. Because if you win the conference, you'll get that college football playoff spot. Doesn't matter what the ranking is. And so I just think that as long as they win the games, they'll be fine, even if they're closer than what they should be.
It seems like every week the Tigers have a big explosive play. I mean, in the Arkansas game, it was the 60-yarder from Sutton Smith. In the Troy game, it was like another 50-plus yarder from Sutton Smith. In this game, they had a 90-yard run, a 73-yard touchdown pass. Talk about those explosive plays and how that is almost like a hallmark now for this Memphis Tiger team.
Yeah, when you've got two dynamic running backs like Sutton Smith, we've already seen what he's been able to do. I know how big of a fan you are of Sutton Smith, and then now that Greg DeRosier is back, he's healthy. He's showing with those 204 yards that he's capable of holding a large workload too, and so it keeps the defenses on their toes. And not to mention, you've got Brendan Lewis, who you also have to worry about on the ground as a dual threat quarterback. And so having that amount of playmakers available in your repertoire, it's no surprise to see that every game they're ripping off a big run here or a big run there.
Now, so most of the time we talk about the quarterback play and what the quarterbacks are doing and how the quarterbacks are leading the way. But, man, I don't know that almost 300 yards rushing on the game for Memphis. They are a running team. The quarterback can run, the running backs can run. It's a running squad.
I feel like DeRosier must have heard what I said about Sutton Smith taking his chain, because he came out and he had that 90-yard play, and he had 3 touchdowns, which is the first time they've done that in a while. I wish I knew the year. But Greg DeRosier was like, yeah, this is still my time.
So, Frank, talk a little bit about how this running attack, which is different than what a lot of colleges use right now. And most colleges are throwing it 40, 45 times a game, 30 to 45 times a game. Memphis is putting that ball on the ground, running that thing. Talk about how that can help them in the long run.
Yeah, you have to use your skill set to your advantage, and that roster is set up for them to be a heavy running team. And where it really benefits them is in the red zone. If you look at their red zone offense, they're 100%. And most of their scores have been touchdowns versus field goals. And the reason of that is because they've been able to run the ball effectively. When you get down to, when it's 20 yards left between you and the goal line, Silverfield talked about it, that field shrinks a little bit. And if you can't run the ball, that can create some issues in the red zone. Well, Memphis, their best attribute is their ability to run the ball. And so I think that's why we're seeing so many touchdowns scored in the red zone, is because it's very hard to stop the run against Memphis right now.
Now let's get back to Saturday and the game against Tulsa. Now all 3 of us have our Oklahoma connections.
I worked in Tulsa.
Ruben worked in Tulsa. Ruben and I both went to Oklahoma State. And Frank, you worked in Tulsa. And how the connective tissue is, Tulsa has a win over Oklahoma State, which isn't saying much because Oklahoma State's not good. But nevertheless, that is still a Power 4 victory. So what kind of challenge do you think, Frank, Tulsa presents for Memphis?
Well, it starts with the defensive line. I mean, if you look at the stats in the American, right, the top two guys that are leading the American in sacks are both on the Tulsa defensive line, and so that's where it starts. This is going to be a huge game for the Memphis offensive line to be able to see if they can continue to assert their dominance. We talked about the run game, but not just in the run game, right, in pass protection, because Tulsa's going to come after you when you're dropping back to pass the ball. And so I think this game will ultimately be decided in the trenches.
All right, Mr. Frank Bonner, appreciate your time today. We know you got things to do other than sit around and talk to us all day, so we appreciate you taking the time to talk Memphis Tigers football with us. Your time is always valued. Have a great rest of your day, sir.
No problem. Same to y'all.
All right. Time for our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive head first into what's next for the 4th-ranked Ole Miss Rebels.
Yes, we look back at the win over LSU and check in with our inside man, Stephen Willis, for the Inside Scoop.
All right, welcome back. If you haven't been a fan of Ole Miss yet this year, this might just be the time to jump on that old bandwagon. You see the Rebels are undefeated and rolling.
Yeah, as you know, I've kind of had to jump on the bandwagon, Ruben, But that's right, it's a lot of hotty-toddy around these parts as the Rebs are the highest-ranked team in the SEC at number 4, their highest since 2015.
And they've earned every piece of that. Ole Miss is on a bye week this week, so everybody's taking a nap and relaxing. Just kidding. It's after defeating LSU 24-19.
It was a statement victory for the Rebs that let the world know this team is for real. And to continue the conversation about Ole Miss, you can't talk about them without having this guy in the conversation. He's the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch on the 24 Plus app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Once again, welcome to the program, Mr. Stephen Willis.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're good to go.
Clap.
He gets you just get the one clap from Richard just because I want to see how long he can keep that one clap going. Let's get right into it. We say it's a bye week like it's time to relax, but it's really not. Talk a little bit about what the mood is in Oxford right now. That's the real question.
Kind of jubilant at the moment. I mean, number 4 national ranking, the reigning AP National Player of the Week on offense in Trinidad Chambliss. It's kind of all coming up Millhouse right now for Ole Miss. And you have Washington State, Wazoo, coming up next week, and then the Georgia Bulldogs. So this could go on into mid-October, this jubilation. And I know several people that are going to be very uncomfortable being that happy.
Well, I know we talked about it, Stephen. You said if Ole Miss won and Trinidad Chambliss got the victory, which he did, things were going to get weird. So let's look at it. 300-plus passing yards, 50-plus rushing yards for the 3rd straight game. He's the only SEC player to do that in 30 years. Have things gotten weird?
Yeah, I don't think things are as weird as possible. I think the AP did Ole Miss a heck of a favor last week because I just think the job is Trinidad's right now. The easiest decision there is who's going to take the first snap against Washington State. The other stuff, they're going to have to handle that. Lane Kiffin makes $10 million a year for a reason. He's going to have to make that decision. But for this year, for this team, for this locker room, Trinidad Chambliss probably has to be the guy. You saw them celebrating afterwards with him. You can see that Trinidad has that locker room after 3 games. And after you beat the number 4 team in the country, whether on the home or on the road, they now believe in Trinidad Chambliss.
Well, I think and real quick, I will give Rich his credit. You might remember, Stephen, after the very first week after the first time that Chambliss filled in, after the starter got hurt, Rich was like, Chambliss is the man. He's got to be the man. And I was like, well, we got to wait and see. But now he has proved, so you were correct.
QB1.
Doesn't happen very often that you get that. But today you are correct, sir. I will say this, Stephen, though, to your point, it would be awkward if Lane Kiffin decided to not start Chambliss because he has the hot hand. He has led them to all these wins. You could almost put yourself in a worse position if you don't start him.
Yeah, if for some reason they decided to go back to Austin Simmons. Now, remember, it's very important to remember this. Austin Simmons is not the quarterback because of anything that he did wrong. He is not at fault at all in this situation. It was just Trinidad came out and balled, and the locker room has seen him ball, which means if you flip the switch over to where Austin started, the locker room will be like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? Didn't we just beat LSU? And it's not anything against Austin. He did not do anything wrong. It's just that Trinidad has, honestly, he's become the story of college football.
Yep.
Everybody's talking about it. Everybody asked me online, what about Trinidad? What about Trinidad this? What about Trinidad that? And that on top of the story, the rise of Ole Miss, I'm telling you, if Ole Miss can get past Georgia and Oklahoma with just split those games, this is an SEC championship game team.
Yep.
And yeah, it's we talked about it getting weird. Well, the AP kind of gave us a reprieve from weirdness. But win the Georgia game, win the Oklahoma game, one of those two. You want to talk about weird? You want to talk about pressure? Because Then you have South Carolina, good quarterback, Lenore Sellers, but Ole Miss is going to be favored by a touchdown. Florida, who knows what they'll be at that point.
Yeah.
The Citadel, yeah. Mississippi State is the hardest game after the Oklahoma game, after October for Ole Miss, which Ole Miss fans would probably be freaking out if they were 9-2 going to Starkville, Mississippi. And honestly, I wouldn't blame them.
So if I'm a Rebel fan, what is the ceiling and what is the floor? Because I've looked on social media and it seems like the sentiment is if we can go at least 3-2 out of these stretch, then we're good to make the playoffs. But now with the way that Ole Miss has been playing, you can say they have a shot to win every game. If I had to make my prediction today, I said they probably lose at OU. But now after watching UGA against Bama, I actually think Ole Miss can beat them.
Yeah, one of those things coming into this season is like Georgia hasn't lost a home game since 2019. Well, now it's Georgia hasn't lost a home game since Saturday. And that kind of changes the narrative a little bit of what's going on. They are struggling stopping teams throw the football, and that's problematic when dealing with Lane Kiffin and the wide receivers that Ole Miss has. They can't get pass rush on the game. Georgia is not a must or will lose game. You don't chalk that up an L. It just went to the toss-up category. I do agree that Oklahoma game is now probably the toughest game on the schedule because Georgia is going to physically beat you up, and then you have to go back on the road again. If they have John Mateer, that's a pretty scary animal. But Ole Miss just needs to figure out a way to get 1 out of 2 in these games, and they'll be all right.
Well, that's the big question, though, when you talk about the Oklahoma game is will they have John Mateer? I know he had successful surgery, what the recovery time looks like. You know, is he back to full 100% for OU at that point in time? If he's not, then I think it definitely favors Ole Miss handily in that game. But to your point, your Ole Miss's schedule at this point, after having won some of the games that they've already won, really does set them up for success. Now, we all know we're Oklahoma State alums, so nobody knows more than us what it's like to play a great season and then lose it at the end.
Yep, and a lot of times it's been the OU.
Yeah, and so you could see this setting up for Ole Miss if they don't stay committed to, you know, that one game at a time. So what do you think, like, the message from Coach Kiffin and company is as far as, because, you know, sometimes the kids can start to believe their own hype a little too quick?
I don't know that that's going to be a problem for this team because of the group of people that went through last season. And there are players that went through last season to where Ole Miss had a 12-0 roster last year and went 9-3 with it. And because of that, everybody is going to step back. You lost to Kentucky a year ago. You can't necessarily overlook anybody. I think Ole Miss is going to be better in the tight games. Remember, last season Ole Miss went 0-3 in one-score games. This season already they're 3-0. The culture change within the program is pretty precipitous. And whenever you look at Trinidad Chambliss and that just a winning mindset of Trinidad Chambliss, I think that helps a little bit as well. They're like, hey, let's go ahead and go get this one. We can win any game. Doesn't matter who we're lining up against. Let's spot the ball and let's play.
Now, you talk about that game against LSU. Something that stood out to me was the offensive line play. They did not allow a single sack against LSU. It's the first time Ole Miss has done that since 2019. What have you seen from that line play? Because I know coming into the season, we were talking a lot about the injuries over there.
Injuries.
To come out and do that against a top 5 ranked team, to me, was just flawless. I was so impressed with the O-line play, keeping Trinidad upright.
Yeah, and with Patrick Kudas having a rough start to the season and kind of coming on for the LSU game, getting offensive lineman co-player of the week for the Southeastern Conference, that was a pretty cool story. Ole Miss has really good tackles. I think that gets lost with what happened in the middle of their offensive line. Their tackles, Diego Pounds and Jaden Williams, they're really good players. If the inside, whenever Dalen O. came back and that offensive line got secured, then it was just building continuity with one another. And LSU has some dudes, man. They really do. But Trinidad doesn't hold the ball. If you look at PFF, He holds the ball under 3 seconds on every drop back. It's get the ball distributed. He really does play point guard for the Ole Miss offense. And he gets them to the playmakers, Deuce Alexander, Trey Wallace, Caleb Odom, Caden Lee. Those guys just spray it around the field and you'll be all right. And because of that mindset, the offensive line has a little bit easier thing, because I do think Austin Simmons, with as good as he can be, he does hold the ball a little bit longer. He has the Jackson Dart syndrome to his game from time to time, in the fact that he can make big plays, so he wants to make big plays, if that makes sense. Yeah. Trinidad Chambliss just wants to gain yards. He wants to stay on schedule. If explosive happen, they happen. But he wants open wide receivers. 9 different receivers caught the ball against LSU. 8 different receivers caught the ball against Tulane. Whenever you look at that, you can see what Trinidad Chambliss is kind of doing, and everybody gets mad at me for saying this. Trinidad Chambliss is a really good, really athletic game manager. Look at Ole Miss in the 4-minute offense. Look at Ole Miss in the 2-minute offense. Whenever you put that on top of his playmaking ability, especially with his legs, this Ole Miss offense has a chance to be not just good, not just great, but the best in the entire country with what they do, because you cannot defend them with 11 players, because you have to spy Trinidad. And Ole Miss using all of the weapons that have been accumulated by Lane Kiffin, you can't just say, hey, there's Trey Harris. We need to bracket that every single pass. You don't know who needs the double team. You don't know who Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss is going to on any particular play. And because of that, this is kind of the perfect marriage at the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say, to your point, and I know we got to let you go, but to the point of less than 3 seconds, 3 seconds is kind of the marker for all quarterbacks. If you're holding it over 3, you better be running it at that point. That tells me that Chambliss reads really quickly, and that the play calling is elite. Because when you're setting it up for your quarterback to be able to read his 1, 2, and 3, his top 3 reads really quickly, then that's how you get that under 3 second mark, just that quickness. So, all right, Stephen, before we let you go, we got to make sure that everybody knows about this in-depth interview you've done, apparently. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we let you go?
Yes, tomorrow on my YouTube channel, on my audio pod, a 30-minute interview with Chris Beard, the head basketball coach for Ole Miss, will be on there. We'll have a little snippet in the morning show and the full 30-minute interview that afternoon. Chris Beard was nice enough to give me a little bit of time, talk a little ball. We talked about Ole Miss's scheduling, the surprises coming out of the spring, the Ole Miss basketball team this year, Ilias Camerdine adjusting from European basketball to American college basketball, all of that over 30 minutes. It was a really cool thing. Thanks for bringing that up, guys.
Yeah, and you can watch that by going to the Locked On YouTube page and by going to abc24.com. We got it right there on your screen. Click Sports, click Ole Miss, scroll down, click it right there on the page. We got it for you, Stephen.
Appreciate you, Stephen
Awesome.
Willis. Have an absolutely great day, and we will check out that interview for sure. We'll let you get back to your maybe 3 or 4 hours of actual vacation or rest during this bye week. Have a good day, brother.
Thank you.
All right, still to come. Tennessee football on a bye week this week as well. There's a lot of bye weeks going on after that overtime thriller against Mississippi State, but head coach Josh Heupel still spoke about giving a preview of what's ahead.
The Vols' next opponent, Ruben, a team very familiar to Mid-South sports fans, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas dropped close games to both Memphis and Ole Miss this season.
They also dropped their coaching staff this last week as well. They're dropping a lot of weight over there, if you know what I'm saying. Emily Ray Cochran from our news partner in Knoxville takes a closer look at the Razorbacks coaching struggles. Well, they're going to change now, and how the Vols are getting ready for this week's tape.
The Sam Pittman era is over in Fayetteville, and Arkansas will debut its new head coach by the time the Hogs get to Knoxville in just a few days for game day. And after a 2-3 start, Arkansas fired Pittman and named Bobby Petrino interim head coach. Petrino, who ironically led the Hogs as head coach from 2008 to 2011, returned last season as the offensive coordinator. Now he takes over the program again, and despite Petrino already calling the plays, Josh Josh Heupel says the Vols still need to be ready for any changes on game day.
You dive as deep as you possibly can. I think it will be important for us schematically, one, to communicate and adjust on the field, but two, on the sidelines and staff and players together. Had a ton of success last year in the three down front they did against us, preparing for that, and then we'll adjust to anything else that we see.
That kickoff against Arkansas is all set for 4:15 on Saturday, October 11th. Now to some other coaching changes, this time impacting this guy, former Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. Just 2 weeks after UCLA fired head coach Deshaun Foster, the Bruins and offensive coordinator Tino Sunseri have mutually parted ways. Ironically, Sunseri actually has some ties to Tennessee. Before coaching at UCLA and making a bunch of other coaching stops along the way, he served as the quality control assistant for the Vols in 2018 under former UT head coach Jeremy Pruitt. Now with the Bruins sitting at 0-4 to start the season, Sunseri is out of a job, and what was once an offensive system Iamaleava claimed was one of the main reasons he opted to leave Tennessee has now turned into a disaster of a situation for the former Vols QB. The Bruins are averaging just 14.2 points per game, which ranks 132nd out of 134 FBS teams in the country. And on your screen right now, you can see the comparison between Joey Aguilar and Nico Iamaleava through the first month of the season. Iamaleava has thrown for just 788 total yards, with his interceptions nearly matching his touchdown total as well. Compare that to Aguilar and a Tennessee team already averaging 51 points a game. Aguilar has double the touchdowns and almost double the passing yards as Iamaleava. And now without his QB coach, this just takes him back a big step further as UCLA gets set to take on a really talented 7th-ranked Penn State team this Saturday. But that's all the coaching changes for now. I'll send things back to you.
Time for a quick break. When we come back, we got the 901 bets. What's the latest bankroll basics? And how do I feel about Memphis football? Stay close. What up, and welcome to the 901 Bets. Think of this as sports betting for dummies right here in Memphis. Now, before we get rolling, quick reminder, if gambling has become a problem for you, hit that Tennessee Gambling Hotline, that number right on your screen, 800-889-9789. All right, y'all, let's talk bankroll basics. And today we're breaking down something you'll always see when you place a bet, the juice. Now, I'm not talking about OJ or the stuff you get at breakfast. Juice, also called the VIG or Vigorish, is the sportsbook's commission. It's how they make their money no matter which side wins. Here's a Memphis example. Say the Grizzlies are playing the Lakers and both teams are listed at -110 odds. That -110 means you have to risk $110 to win $100. So that extra $10, that's the juice. The sportsbook builds it into the line so they always have a margin. Or let's say Memphis football is a 3-point favorite over Tulsa at -110 on both sides. They're not, but just for the sake of the example, it doesn't matter if you bet the Tigers or the Golden Hurricane. The juice is baked in. So if the book takes equal action, they profit off that margin. Bottom line, when you're betting here in the 901, always remember the juice. It's not just about picking the winner, it's about knowing how much the house is taking off the top. Time for this week's Bluff City Lions. With Ole Miss on the bye, it's all eyes on the Memphis Tigers Saturday night. Let's go category by category. Money line, that's easy. I'm taking Memphis to win. The Tigers are undefeated this season as a money line favorite, and Tulsa isn't pulling an upset in a night game at Liberty Stadium. Now the total, it's set at 56.5. I'm taking the under. Memphis has the firepower, but Tulsa's run defense has gotten better and should slow things down a bit. And the spread, 20.5 points feels a bit too high. I'll take Tulsa to cover that one, but one guarantee I can say, Memphis will score at least 20 points. The Tigers have done that in the past 45 straight games, the longest active streak in the country. And it may start slow, but Ryan Silverfield's team will settle in, win its 10th straight overall, and extend the home record to 11 in front of that blue and silver crowd. All right, now let's check in on my Bluff City record. Probably the best I've done to this point. Got both Memphis picks right with the money line and the 13.5 spread last week, but Ole Miss, they continue to be the thing for me. I just can't get it all the way right. I got the money line right as they beat LSU, but I shouldn't have listened to Coach Lane Kiffin as they did not hit the over. But with the 3-1 finish on the week, that puts me at 9-7 overall. 2 games over 500. Not bad, not bad. And as always, send me your takes. If you have a betting terminology you're unsure of, send it my way. Want my opinion on a slip or ticket you have, send it my way. And man, if you even want to spotlight your W, we will give you your flowers on this program because we have fun over here, man. At me on X at RD2 Sports, text the number 901-321-7520 or just use the hashtag ABC24Floor. But in saying all that, remember, folks, producer Azarite, bring it up for me one more time. This content is for entertainment purposes only. ABC24 and its affiliates do not encourage gambling. Viewer discretion is advised. Any betting decisions you make are solely your responsibility. We're not responsible for any financial losses or wins resulting from information presented on this program. Time for a quick break. That will do it for today's 901 Bets. When we come back, we've got this segment you all know and love, Say What? We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to the 24th floor. Before we get out of here, we got to do our Say What segment. And today's Say What is, are SEC football dynasties dead? I say no, they are not.
I think they are.
Say
Why
what?
not? Why not? I mean, think about it. We're in the world of NIL.
Okay.
We're also in the world where now you got so many teams in the SEC. You know, you got OU in it now. You got Texas in it now. You got all this conference realignment. We're never going to see a stretch of Alabama winning like 5 straight SEC titles.
Where this all comes from is Lane Kiffin, believe it or not, said he believes that the days of dynasties in the SEC are done because of the additional games, because of the
He's
scheduling.
also saying that because they're really good.
Yeah, he doesn't want them anymore. But I say they're not done, and here's why. Collectives are now replacing what were big boosters. Big conferences equal big TV contracts, which equals what? Massive revenue share. Revenue share is a thing now, especially in those big conferences where that money actually matters. So while you might be saying, oh, the conference is getting big, conferences have always been big. There's always been 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 teams in conferences. There's always going to be the teams that rise to the top and the teams at the bottom. The reason why I say it's not going to be dead is because somebody is going to figure out how to best use this collective revenue share and NIL system to create a powerhouse that will last for years.
So who do you think is the closest to a dynasty then? UGA, because they have won the most recent
I don't think we have that. I don't think we have that team in place right now. I don't think anybody who's won recently can be that team because everybody's still trying to figure out. There have been rule changes. I mean, with the portal change that just happened this year, that's going to impact how you create these dynasties. But somebody is going to be the next Nick Saban. And they're going to figure out how to manipulate the system. They're just going to shell out like 3 in a row. That's what really starts. So what is your hallmark for a dynasty? 3 in a row? I think it's got to be 3.
3 in a row.
I think 3 in a row because you
like
win
3 in the last 4.
I think that's fair. 3 out of the last 4. I think you win 1, then you come back to back. Then you got to win 3 out of the last 4 to be considered a dynasty.
Nah, man, that's not happening. We're not having that again.
I think it happens.
We're not.
Because why do you think it's going to? Here's why, and I know we got to get out of here, but here's why. You win the 1, you win the second one, right? Because you're not losing high-end players after those winning seasons. You're gaining more high-end players, especially as you're sending kids to the league. So then that 3rd year, there's always the potential for a drop-off, but you're not going to not be able to get those high-end players. Those players are still going to flock to where the money is, where the TV rights are, because you're getting on TV playing in front of potential NFL scouts and where the NFL players get drafted.
But every year is a crapshoot, though.
So I mean, like
every year you got anybody who can win the SEC. So we're not going to see a run of where it's UGA or it's just Alabama. Now we have teams like Ole Miss. We have teams like Tennessee. We have teams like Vanderbilt, teams like Missouri. Every year It's going to be somebody new.
Those teams, to your point, you're right. It doesn't have to be an Alabama or Georgia. Any of those teams could become the next dynasty team
But I don't think
if they figure out the formula.
I don't think they're going to go on a run where they're just 3 out of the last 4, 2 in a row, 4. Like, no, that's not happening.
Well, right now, you are at best 60-40 on your predictions, 60 being bad. So we're going to go with me on this one.
Okay.
How's that Atlanta Dream looking? All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of the 24th Floor.
Oh, my God.
Shout out to everybody who made today's show possible.
Especially Azurite Kayum and Brooklyn High for their work behind the scenes, putting the show together. Big shout out to Frank Bonner from the Daily Memphian, and of course, our guy, Stephen Willis from the Locked On Podcast.
Have a great day, everybody. Hopefully your predictions are better than his. We'll see you on the other side sometime, on that winning side.